Dhampirs, hybrid children of humans and vampires, strike fear into the undead like nothing else, even beyond the tolling bells of the church. In this video, we dive deep into the world of mythology, from the Benandanti protecting harvests, to imperial onmyōji in Japan, to chilling historical records of the dead who returned. You'll discover that what vampires fear most isn't ritual or relics, but someone who knows their lairs, their habits, and their blind spots. A betrayed bloodline who can sense the silence of a heart that doesn't beat. By the end, we reveal 3 core reasons Dhampirs eclipse institutional power, along with real-life folklore and gripping tales you won't be able to turn away from. Prepare for a journey where faith and fear collide and truth chills deeper than night air. Subscribe to Tales Mythology now, and never miss another mystery of history and the cosmos. What if the thing vampires dread most isn't holy water, silver, or the midnight sermon, but their own blood staring back at them? A child of dusk and dawn, a tracker who can hear the heartbeat they don't have, a hunter born from the same hunger, yet sworn to break it. Tonight, we follow the whispers that make elder vampires shutter their crypts before sunset. This is the story of the Dhampir, why the undead fear the hybrid more than the church. Expansion beats to scale. Quick montage of cross-cultural hunters, shaman fire, Benandanti spirit rides, onmyōji ink seals, friar's ledger, to foreshadow sections. 1 sentence promise. By the end, you'll see 3 reasons the Dhampir terrifies the night. For centuries, churches anchored communities against invisible threats. Bells to gather the living, relics to anchor courage, ritual to mark a boundary where night should end. Priests could sanctify ground, bless water, lead fasts and processions. In terror seasons, these were lifelines. But institutions move like cathedrals, slow, careful, documented. A bishop's seal can take weeks. Fear doesn't. Rituals also depend on belief and consent. They draw lines vampires learn to walk around. From the Balkans to the Aegean, villagers sometimes acted first, prayed later. They exhumed the accused, staked and burned, and only then asked forgiveness. In 1725, Austrian official Ernst Frombold watched the Blagojevich exhumation and recorded details. Fresh-looking corpse, blood at the lips, stake, for every village finally slept. His report soothed his superiors more than the dead. It also fueled Europe's imagination. Expansion beats. Contrast institutional pace versus folk urgency. Brief, clear description of why decomposition can mislead, nail, hair growth, purge fluids, not to debunk belief, but to explain the panic cycle. Dharma Augustine Kalmit, a Benedictine scholar, didn't roll his eyes at villagers. In Balkan lore, a Dhampir is the child of a vampire and a human, most often a male vampire and a mortal woman. Unlike their undead parent, the Dhampir lives, eats, ages. Yet folklore credits them with one terrifying gift. They can see vampires other people cannot, sometimes even when the undead are invisible, and they make a profession of hunting them. Monsters can study priests. They know the smell of incense, the arc of a procession, the glow of consecrated windows. They also know how to avoid them. But a Dhampir is unpredictable, Baal as a rumor, intimate as a relative, carrying instincts drawn from the same dark well. It is the predator cousin, close enough to track you, human enough to mobilize a village fast. Expansion beats. In world monologue from an elder vampire who remembers losing fledglings to a boy with dust-colored eyes. Quiet detail. Dhampir methods differ place to placicams here. Blades there. Always the sight. Detection. A priest needs a confession or a sign. A Dhampir can perceive the thing itself. Speed. No letters to seal. No tribunal to convene. Adaptation. Dhampirs aren't bound to aridity switch tactics as the vampire switches lairs. In Friuli, the Benandanti said they were born with a caller mark of destiny. On certain nights, their spirits left their bodies to fight witches with stalks of sorghum, protecting crops and neighbors. This was communal welfare fought in dreamlight. Compare that to the Dhampir's work, not seasonal, not symbolic, pursuit of a specific undead target. Expansion beats. Gentle, lyrical description of a Benandanti's flight. How Inquisitors' categories tried to absorb or condemn Benandanti stories. In high period Japan, onmyōji advised emperors, blending astrology, geomancy, and exorcism. Their power was official, bureaucratic, precise. Legends surround Abe no Saime, whose name still feels like lacquer and ink. A vampire studying a court calendar would know when rites occur. A Dhampir doesn't share the calendar. From Greek priests digging up suspected revenants to Austrian doctors staffed with pens and doubts, hunters wore many faces. They brought order to terror. Dhampirs bring ambiguity to the monster which monsters hate. Expansion beats, 2-paragraph compare. Contrast table in voiceover for on-screen graphic. Institution versus Insider. A small Balkan village goes silent after livestock die without wounds. A cousin comes home with new jewelry. No shadow at noon. A Dhampir miller's quiet song keeps, watched by the threshing floor. When the wind shifts, he turns, not to the churchyard, but to the river Bekor's family remembers where family hid in childhood. He goes first to the willow roots. There he finds the hollow, the scent of clay and wrongness, and the necklace the cousin loved, snagged on bark. He doesn't call the priest yet. He marks the water with ash, scatters millet in a pattern only he uses if it's disturbed. He'll know who passed, and tells the night watch to keep their lamps low. At dawn he speaks to the priest who blesses the ground after the lair is burned. Both roles matter. The order mattered more. Expansion beats. Add sensory detail: grain dust, wet clay, lamp oil bloom. Insert a short Dhampir in a monologue about hearing the unpulse. Short, respectful retelling of the 1725 account and Frombel's dilemma. Calm a terrified village. Protect imperial credibility. And write what he saw even if he could not explain it. This frames how institution plus fear interacted. A woman born with a cold sleeps in a chair. Her family swears they see breath leave like a silk ribbon. She wakes at dawn with straw on her hands, and a bruise shaped like a sickle. She never meets a vampire, but she keeps one from ever reaching the village by winning a harvest battle in the sky. The Dhampir and the Benandanti are cousins in duty, not blood. Both are chosen by difference. Expansion beats, soft folklore tone, emphasize community gratitude rituals. In Kyoto's reign, an onmyōji paints a seal to rebalance a cursed estate. The curse ends not through fire, but through alignment. The Dhampir would have hunted a specific revenant. The onmyōji edits the weather of fate. Both make vampires nervous, the first by proximity, the second by geometry. Vampires thrive on illusion, charm, glamour, borrowed manners. Priests pierce illusions with doctrine. Dhampirs pierce them with recognition. It's hard to mimic alive to someone who shares your origin story and hears the seams. Churches are fixed points. Hybrids roam. A Dhampir can stake out a mill, a cellar, a ferry crossing. They think like a wanderer with memories of a den, not like a pastor counting pews. Church, boundary objects, icons, relics, sacraments, public rituals, legitimacy. Dhampir, private trail signs, improvised traps, lair logic, betrayal cues only family shows. That's asymmetry unnerves the undead. Expansion beats. Insert a checklist graphic. If you were a Dhampir, what would you watch? Door lintel scratches, mirrored watering wells, mismatched talk about shared childhood. Comets catalogues and Frombel's reports fed the 19th century imagination, giving Stoker the perfect foil. Van Helsing, who mixes host and transfusion, folklore and lab notes. The Dhampir isn't center stage there, but the principle is. The most effective hunter straddles worlds. Hybrids comfort audiences. They promise mastery over fear by knowing fear from the inside. That's the Dhampir's dramatic energy. I learned your roots by surviving you. Expansion beats. Keep references light to stay fresh. The lore carries the weight. Living, eating, aging, and sometimes marked by dark or unruly hair, unusual perception, and the tendency to become professional vampire hunters, not blood addicted by default. Some tales allow biting to extend life, but don't require it. Traditions vary. Some say they perceive the shimmer of undeath, or hear a silence where pulse should be. Others say they just know family recognizes family. Use this as performance heft, sensory descriptions rather than rules. Dhampirs stand on a boundary. Temptations are real, power, vengeance, solitude. Communities both need and distrust them. That tension makes better stories than any single kill. Expansion beats. Mini story of a Dhampir refusing to enter sanctified ground after a hunt, not because it burns, but because it aches. A coastal village loses 3 barrels worth of grapes overnight, no footprints in the wet soil. The Dhampir listens to bee sighs. Bees, hives change tone when something wrong hums nearby. He maps the sound to a limestone cave above the terraces. Inside, scratch marks that loop, as if the hand that made them didn't breathe. He leaves the cave unsealed, lights a lamp in the wrong place to lure the revenant downwind, and hides a net soaked in brine and rosemary plant his grandmother used for grief. When the revenant lunges, it doesn't hit a cross, it hits memory. The Dhampir calls its name and speaks the night of its first theft, a winter loaf. A mother-lied Topher, the revenant is still proud of that hunger. Pride makes it pause. The pause is enough. Expansion beats to reach length. Multi-paragraph chase through vine rows. Granular sense details, soil under nails, rosemary vapor, wax sputter, intercut with the priest's morning blessing and the beadle assembling, neighbor showing both tool sets working, time shifted. Quiet aftermath. The Dhampir eats bread with hands that shake. A very human ending. Institutions keep time for communities. They hold grief in liturgy, so individuals don't break under it. The church teaches people how to stand together. The Dhampir teaches people how to move when the night moves. They're complements, not rivals. Being seen where glamours fail. Being hunted by someone who knows lairs like home. Being named by a voice that sounds like kin. The monsters we fear most are often the ones that feel familiar. Institutions draw safe circles. Hybrids cross their edges. In myth and in life, we need both. Those who hold the light and those who learn the dark well enough to lead us out. If this walk through twilight lit something for you, let it be this. Courage isn't just a strike of a stake or the flash of a seal. Sometimes, it's the steady breath of someone born between worlds, choosing ours. If you love the untold side of myth, join the circle, like, subscribe, and ring the bell.